Hey guys, welcome back to Planetmithril, and today we are starting a brand new little series on the channel. We're going to be trying it out for a few videos and seeing if you guys like it and something we carry on going forward into the future. But for the first time ever, let's talk tabletop. This will be a little series where we explore some of our favourite profiles from the game, some of the heroes, some of the warriors, just talk through them, where they fit, what their pros and cons are. And for the first video we thought, what better model to start off with than Aragorn Elessar himself. Future King of Gondor, Heir of Isildur, Ranger Extraordinaire, Fellowship Protector, Toe Breaker. One of the most beastly models in the game, can seriously put out some hurt power as well as stay on the battlefield long enough to help his friends out and put a serious dent in the enemy forces, and just all round an absolutely solid unit on the tabletop. So let's talk stat line. Aragorn has got a fairly solid stat line, very solid stat line. He is move 6. He is fight value 6, which means he can go toe to toe with some of the biggest beasties in Middle Earth. He's strength 4, which is fairly standard across all the hero models, means he can put out a decent amount of punishment. Defense 5 in his normal ranger profile, which is a little bit low for a hero, but bearing in mind he's wearing cloth most of the time, it's understandable that he'd be a little bit lackluster there. 3 attacks and 3 wounds, courage 6, so he's not running anywhere. He also has 3 might, 3 will, and 3 fate. So you can see this is a very solid stat line for a hero to have on the battlefield. It means he's not going anywhere for a little while. He's got 3 fate to mitigate the wounds he might take from that defense 5. The 3 might means he's got access to all the heroic actions he could want, as well as getting the jump on some enemies and forcing some of those crucial wounds through. But definitely when it comes to normal infantry sized models, he's definitely got a super solid stat line and is no slouch when it comes to combat. He has a variety of heroic actions available to him. I think he might actually have all the heroic actions available to him. Heroic Resolve, Heroic March, Heroic Accuracy, Heroic Strike, Heroic Strength, Heroic Defense, and Heroic Challenge. So he is an absolute toolbox of utility and can turn his hand to pretty much anything depending on what he's needed to do in the game. And with things like Strength and Challenge, he's got the defensible abilities there to make sure he's not utterly overwhelmed when the models around him inevitably crumble. And he's left standing there as a pillar of heroicism in the middle of the battlefield. Going into equipment he can have fairly standard equipment. He can have horse, armour and bow as befitting his ranger garb. The armour will mitigate the defense 5, which is quite nice. Takes him to defense 6, which admittedly only helps against strength 3 models that he's fighting. It takes their roll to wound from a 5 to a 6. Against strength 4 warriors, it's going to be less helpful. You're still going to be needing 5s to get those crucial wounds through on Aragorn. But it's a nice little bit of protection against some of the weaker troops and some of the more swarmy hordes available to the forces of evil. As with the rest of the Fellowship, he can have an Elven Cloak as well, which will keep him nice and safe at range when he's partially obscured by dense and blocking terrain. But the most crucial bit of kit we can give our future king during the game is the mighty sword, Anduril, Flame of the West. This is the hand and a half sword, so it can be used single and double-handed. It's not a Master Forge sword, so he will still suffer the -1, but he's got plenty of resources available to him to make sure he can tip that 5 back up to a 6 to push that hit through. And also, naturally, as I'm sure we all know, it is an Elven-made sword, so he'll be winning roll-offs on a 3, 4, 5 or a 6, rather than the standard 4, 5, 6, 50-50 split as it would be normally. But the most crucial reason for taking Anduril is the fact that once he has it, he never needs anything more than a 4+ to cause a wound to anything. Whether you are Goblin, Uruk, Orc, Balrog, Cave Drake, Sauron, 4+, it's taking a wound, which is absolutely incredible. I love this ability. This is so good. Whenever my opponent places Aragorn down on the tabletop, I'm always dreading that Anduril, because the big beasties that I take and the big hitty things that I take with some survivability in evil, they don't like being wounded on a 4+. But then again, can you really blame them? Because, ouch. Note as well that if you are using the two-handed variant of Anduril, that the +1 to wound does still stack. So instead of wounding things on a 4, you'll be wounding things on a 3 if you get the hit through. On a 3, a 66% chance to cause a wound to anything. We have a couple of special rules as well. Aragorn has Horse Lord, and the other pièce de résistance available to him, which is Mighty Hero. This means that Aragorn, every turn, gains 1 point of free might. Every turn, just 1 point of free might to do with as he wishes. It doesn't stack, so if you don't lose it, you don't get an additional might on top of that. You can't take Aragorn to 25 might because you've got to stop him somewhere. But this just further increases his utility on the tabletop. We're gonna have a quick look at Aragorn King Elessar as well while we are here. The stat profile stays pretty much the same. This profile is Defense 7 standard, so mitigating the strikes from the Strength 3 and the Strength 4 warriors this time round, meaning that everything needs 6s to wound him. Anything higher than that will back on 5s, which gives him that little bit more survivability on the tabletop, which is awesome. He gets Anduril inbuilt in his profile this time, again for the slightly increased points cost. Again, the special rules stay pretty much the same, apart from one extra rule we do get with Elessar is Stand Men of the West, which basically means he counts as a banner to any friendly model who is within 6 inches of him, benefiting his troops around him by giving them a reroll in combat, as would a banner at a normal 3-inch range, but instead this time now at a 6-inch range from Aragorn himself, which is also incredible when you mount it onto an armoured horse as well, which just increases the range to about a 7-8 inch range banner from Aragorn himself, which is a phenomenal range for a banner. That's covering a serious amount of territory there. So some pros to Aragorn, as we've stated quite conclusively, he is a killing machine on the tabletop. There is not a lot that can go toe-to-toe with him and expect to come off on top. He's probably one of the most powerful foot troops in the game. He's different to characters such as Boromir or Imrahil, who, albeit maybe have better stat lines on the face of it, have a finite amount of resources available to them. He can go toe-to-toe with pretty much anything else in the game. There's very few things I can think of that can put Aragorn down significantly easily. Obviously, if he loses the fight and you're fighting a big beastie, then the defense 5/6 on the standard Strider profile is only going to be so much help. But again, 3 fate points and the might points to boost them up should give them a couple of turns toe-to-toe with that big beastie as and when that becomes a thing. Also, all the sculpts of Aragorn are absolutely beautiful. I struggle to think of any sculpt of Aragorn that I haven't really enjoyed painting myself. They're all so characterful, or capture those very specific moments and scenes from the films they're portrayed from. Beautiful models all round. And continue to be so the more and more they get released. Some cons, again, like I say, Defense 5 for Strider is a little bit of a letdown. Again, it's thematic, it fits with how he would be dressed and how he would be kitted out from that stage in the films. And the armour as well is a little bit of a mitigation, as we said, as when he gets to Helm's Deep and he starts donning chainmail underneath, it gives it a little bit of a buffer. But Defense 5 standard does kind of let him down a little bit. I've definitely fallen foul of that myself. He is very expensive. I think he's about 160 for Strider profile, not including any equipment, and Elessar is 225, so you're going to be losing some utility in regard to number of models you can put with him / in your army, because in 1,000 points, if you're taking Elessar, he's basically accounting for about a quarter of your overall force, so you've got to really make sure that the units around him can support and help push forward and get those objectives and meet those victory conditions, whilst also supporting Aragorn to make sure he doesn't die too quickly and you don't end up losing a quarter of your army in one model. That's a bit of a drawback when it comes to Aragorn. Even Strider, when he's kitted out as well with Anduril and Bear and bits and bobs, comes in at around about the 200 point mark, and it's still a fifth of your army. That's a very big chunk of your army for one hero, and if the army starts suffering around Aragorn, albeit he may be doing really well, and then you're going to start edging into territory of losing on victory conditions, just based on the fact that Aragorn is the only one really putting his weight and the rest of the army is falling down around him. And the only other thing that we found with him is that he doesn't have a lot of armies where he fits in really naturally. Aragorn Strider comes in with the Fellowship and the Rangers list naturally. Elessar is only exclusively usable in the Minas Tirith list. Now, I know there are Legendary Legions that have come out which are mitigating this. You've got the Armies of the Dead Legendary Legion, you've got the Defenders of Helm's Deep Legendary Legion, and there's bits and bobs and other ways that you can start incorporating them into your other army lists. But that's the only thing that lets him down, is that you're not going to see him naturally. If you're playing thematic, and as we all know, theme is key. But if you're playing him very thematically, you're not going to be taking him and allying him in with dwarves, because you want to run dwarves and have a big killing machine like Aragorn. It does kind of limit, to a degree, what you can take with him. Thankfully, the Fellowship is green allies with quite a lot of the other army lists in Middle-earth. So it does mean if you do need to ally to get that killing power in, you're not going to be losing your army bonuses. Well, there we go. That's our quick little rundown of Aragorn Strider / King Elessar today. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I know it's something a little bit different, and we want to this year start pushing out the boat in terms of variety of content and what we're doing. But yeah, we thought this would be a fun little series to try and get going on the channel, just to explore some of our favourite profiles from the game, and just a chance to do something different. Yes, we're back next week with a painting tutorial, but until then, we hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you later. Take care, guys. Bye bye.